guys? Alright, my homies, what's up everybody? The Khaiza is back and we are going to be doing a Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy 3 review, right? Their latest movie just arrived. Well, not just arrived, sorry. It arrived... When did it come? Oh, I think it was on Wednesday. Yeah, last week, like Wednesday, that Guardians of the Galaxy 3 came out, right? Lo and behold, like fucking like out of nowhere that it like came out. I've been like really expecting this Guardians like movie because the past two have been super fucking good. I just like, you know, after like Guardians 1 and watching like Guardians 2, I start to see like, you know, the appeal of these like Guardians movies directed by James Gunn, right? And James Gunn is the same dude that did the Scooby-Doo movies long ago, not his very best, but he did recent works like Suicide Squad, right? The new Suicide Squad, not the one with the Jared Leto Joker and Will Smith, right? The new one with Deadshot as Idris Elba, or yeah, and Peacemaker is in there. But Suicide Squad came out last week, and yeah, definitely like I can see why I like these like movies a lot, comparatively speaking to some of the other ones, some of the other like Marvel shows or movies that are out there, outside of like, you know, a very a very select few Marvel movies that really are, you know, just the creme de la creme, right? Like Avengers, both Infinity War and Endgame are top tier, right? Avengers 1 is what started it all. Rough, you know, but if you want to like, you know, look back, but hey, it was good. Avengers, no, not Avengers 2. Iron Man 1 definitely like started all, but it was, you know, showing its age. Shows its age at the time. Captain America, Winter Soldier, Guardians 1, Guardians 2, Thor Ragnarok. There are a lot of like good titles in the past like years of the MCU, right? Black Panther also, well, Black Panther technically, you know, one of them had like some like inconsistencies, but it was still like good, you know? But yeah, like Guardians 3, we knew like long beforehand from like the trailers and whatnot that this was going to be like a depressing like Guardians movie, that there's not going to be like any happy fun times like at all, because, you know, the subject matter, I will not spoil anything yet, the subject matter for Guardians 3 is hella rough, right? And it's hella like morbid and somber, right? Like, oh my god, they're showing like this, and this is what like that guy like did to like that dude, insane. Excuse me. But we were all like expecting that, and what we got from Guardians 3 was, you know, still like the Guardians like, you know, thematics, right? Even though we have like clear and present danger, but it's just a lot of fun, right? Like, it's not like obscene jokes that they have to forcefully put out, like a la like a Thor Love and Thunder, right? I mean, only like one thing really like made me like chuckle, which was like the screaming goats. I just love like every time like they scream, there's like ah! You know, like something about like those goats just like, you know, tickles my brain. It's just funny. But other than that, it's just like, you know, it's just trying so hard to like, you know, emulate the Ragnarok formula of like humor and shit, but it didn't really pay off well. That was like kind of like my beef with Thor, is that it just didn't feel right, you know? I mean, Thor's like a good like character. I mean, you know, the way that they slowly like made Thor from like Thor 1 being an arrogant god, Thor 2 losing his mother, Thor 3 losing his father, by the events of Avengers losing his brother and whole like clan. But then like Thor 4 like loses his love, which, you know, they've established that in like, you know, in some of the older like Marvel films, but it's just, it doesn't like hit as much. It's just more like, you know, obscene and like in a bad way. I mean, it's cool, but I just never like jive with it as much. But with Guardians, right, it has like, you know, the same like James Gunn like formula, right? Not to like a, you know, like a perfected levels. I mean, you know, Guardians 2 was a really like good high because of like the team like, you know, just bickering / getting along with each other, and the cuteness that is baby like Groot. I think like baby Groot sold the Guardians of the Galaxy franchise a lot more than it was projected like to being. A lot of people really liked baby Groot, like no shit. The moment like kids or like families saw like that, it's like companies saw that, it's like, all right, let's make a Funko Pop out of this. Let's make like shorts out of this, which, you know, there already are. There's like an I Am Groot like mini series. Very like funny, not really like canonically like connected to the MCU, but it's just, man, that toy like fucking popped off. It's like fucking what is it, the Poogies? Well, not Poogies, or the little like cute fuzzy like little things that debuted in Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi. Controversial film, but like, man, those critters sold fucking bank. I mean, I could imagine, right? I mean, shit. But yeah, it was like a fun fun movie, Guardians 2, which, you know, encapsulated the James Gunn like formula of, you know, humor, a clear presentation, and just constant like songs, right? This was this, I mean, watching a movie is like different from watching the Guardians movies, are like so different than playing the Guardians game by Square Enix and actually like streaming them, because like that's kind of like how Guardians like is after Guardians 1 and 2, prior to Guardians 3 that the Guardians Square Enix game like came out, is that, yeah, like the music, the crazy like implant tracks that the game sets up for you to fight like bosses and enemies are the highlights of Guardians, and that's what like the core of Guardians is. However, because of streamer mode, you can't play that. You can't play that at all. You have to play that like silent, and the game offers you like an in-game like soundtrack that is streamer friendly. That's streamer friendly and that you can like play. But man, shooting down dudes while listening to like Bob Marley's Don't Worry, Be Happy is funny, but also motivating as well. Like it's fun. It's funny. It's fun and funny. And of course, Guardians 3 carries like that same vision. I mean, more like darkish like tones. Not like in like color palettes or anything, but just more like dark tones than the previous two Guardians. Which is kind of like, you know, the Marvel like curse is like, man, I'm gonna lose everything, right? Spider-Man was, you know, lost his like Aunt May. Tony Stark lost all of his like armor. Thor lost his like powers and his father. Captain America, technically Civil War, lost his affiliation with America and his shield and became like rogue. Yeah, it's just like, you know, the Marvel 3 curse, right? And of course, even like Avengers, right? Lost half of the universe. half of the universe. In Ant-Man 3, right? I keep forgetting to like do like an Ant-Man 3, right? I always say that I should, but at this point in juncture of time, I just like keep forgetting. I'm like, man, Ant-Man 3, I'll give you like the short synopsis, right, for like Ant-Man 3, right, or a mini like review. Ant-Man 3, Scott Lang's adventure into the quantum realm with, you know, his daughter, Cassie Lang, becoming like an Ant-Man protege and fighting like the ultimate like big bad and will be like big bad of the multiversal saga, Kang the Conqueror, is good, right? It's good. I hated how they did my boy MODOK, bro. Like, MODOK, the leader of AIM, Advanced Intelligence, Advanced Idea Mechanics, or Advanced Intelligence Mechanics. I forget like either or, but this is the second time, like after like Black Widow, they did my boy Taskmaster dirty by making Taskmaster canonically plot-wise with Black Widow by making him Dracov's daughter and brainwashed. Similar thing happened to like MODOK, where they just like, you know, retconned like his like story, right, from being like a mercenary for hire, and just like he is Darren Cross, like that one villain in Ant-Man 1, or the main villain in Ant-Man 1, made him like, you know, a baby face looking like model, and it's just like, I'm whining, I'm complaining, I'm like, yo man, what the fuck, bro? What the fuck? That's how they did MODOK? I knew him from Marvel like 3. You mean to tell me that's the man? Nah, I refuse. But we didn't get anything like that in Guardians 3, thank God. Well, no, we kind of got like Adam Warlock. Yeah, Adam Warlock, because he was supposed to be like, he was teased at the end of Guardians 2, and that he would hunt down the Guardians by like the High Magistrate, by the Golden People, and we actually see him as like Will Porter, and he was the guy that did like other like movies where he portrayed as like an asshole. I know he did like the Joker in the Gotham series, if I'm mistaken, but yeah, Will Porter kind of like nails it as like Adam Warlock, you know? I mean, and let's just get on with like, you know, spoilers, right? I think I pretty much like talked about it, but Guardians 3 is first and foremost a Rocket Raccoon story, right? He is the most mentioned like character. He is the plot device for Guardians 3. He's there, but he's not there at the same time. If I really like can make sense out of it, right? Because, you know, we only see like Rocket Raccoon as like a side character. He's not like the main piece. Most of what Rocket like does are like, you know, side adventures, while the last two films really like focused on Peter Quill and Gamora, right? Which is, you know, what the first film does and the second film does. I mean, not with the second film, right? Technically speaking, right? Because, you know, Peter Quill is all about finding love, or like, you know, with Gamora and like finding acceptance, with his like dad, who turns out to be like a planetary like douchebag. And it's kind of like in the way here, because albeit it's mostly about like Rocket, but it's also about Peter trying to reclaim his lost love, and that's Gamora. And this Gamora is different because of the events of Endgame. It's a irregular time placement character of Gamora. This is a Gamora that was not thrown off at the Soul Stone planet by Thanos. This is a Gamora that was before that actually like happened and rescued, technically like rescued her from that event. So now she's like a Ravager, part of, you know, Yondu, but you know, Yondu died in Guardians 2 and is stuck with Sylvester Stallone Ravagers. So she became just like, you know, a Ravager like for hire in a sense, sort of thing. But Peter Quill's still hung up on, you know, Gamora, like having like, you know, some depression issues that I won't see like my love again. And so Rocket and Nebula, who is now officially like a team member, Nebula is like a funny fucking character, right? Trying to manage like all like the craziness that goes on with like in the Guardians crew. Drax and Mantis, heavily funny, like still carries on like to this day. Drax like the most blatant motherfucker in the goddamn universe. I was like rewatching like Guardians 2 and I could see why Drax is like so likable. Drax is like, does your father have a penis? Peter and Gamora like, what the fuck is wrong with you? It's like Drax like points out like, hey, yo, how can he make you, right? Like, if he's a planet and he has like a penis, right? That would smush her, like, like, I mean, Drax is the people's champion. But the events of Guardians 3 is essentially that Adam Warlock comes in and sends Rocket Raccoon to the ER. Like his main goal was to kill off the Guardians of the Galaxy, but was, you know, injured via like the fight and had to retreat. So the whole like movie is finding the originator of Rocket Raccoon so that they can revive him back. For the whole movie, for the whole middle of the movie, not beginning, not end, but the whole like chunk that is the middle of the movie is all about like Rocket and his like memories as like a genetic experiment by his creator, the High Evolutionary. And yeah, the High Evolutionary is played by, damn, I forgot his like name. It's like some weird like name I can't like pronounce on the fly, but it's essentially the same dude that did the leader platoon in the Peacemaker TV show. Like if anybody remembers that fucking character. But he's there, and he's an interesting character to say the least, right? Like, the High Evolutionary is like a dude whose MO wants to create like the perfect society of no violence, right? If he finds like a single like iota of violence or anger or any like, you know, negative connotation of a perfect society that imperfects his perfect society, then he just like kills it or throws it away in the trash. He'll build like another. Yeah, and like this dude is fucking funny, right? You would sometimes see him as like a calm and composed, like ugly motherfucker. But he just a lot of the time just screams and wails, right? Like, damn, this dude really is like the definition of like unhinged, right? In a calm, composed, like sort of way. He is like the opposite of like what the Guardians crew, Motley crew is about. Is that they don't go without a plan. Sometimes with a plan, it's just that there are a lot of these like, you know, not very intelligent like characters like Drax and like Mantis. And of course, you know, Groot being one of them. Kraglin, also there. And of course, you know, Peter, right? Because Peter's not the most intelligent person, if you really think about it. But yeah, it's that kind of like thematics going on. So they go through like different, well, not different planets. They try to like find the trail of the High Evolutionary, and it all essentially is for this movie is to find the passcode to get rid of Rocket's failsafe, right? And Rocket has been embedded by, it has been embedded a failsafe by the High Evolutionary that if something happens, he would permanently like die. And the High Evolutionary wants him alive because his brain, because he wants Rocket's brain more than anything. That, you know, something about like in a flashback that he was able to calculate the hydraulics, some shit like that. You know? But mostly, you know, it was just like a wild goose chase to save Rocket and defeat like the High Evolutionary and rescue all of like the endangered like people that are in there, right? They because like in the plot of Guardians 3, they go to like a planet where it's literally, you know, made by like human DNA breeding with like, you know, animal DNA, and it's like a new society, different language and everything. Nobody can speak like that language, but it's funny. Interact, because Drax like interacts. There was like the one trailer like bit that's in like in this movie here, where like Drax like, oh, picks up a basketball, throws it as hard as the kid is like, oh, he hit a kid. Fucking but they're like these like endangered like kids that were inside the High Evolutionary's ship, and the Guardians like rescued them. After like, you know, the Guardians encountering the High Evolutionary, you know, demanding that they give them the passcode so that they can revive Rocket in exchange that the High Evolutionary wants his brain. There's also like the side plot of like, you know, Adam Warlock, right? Like, I for one sure, now that I think about it, I forgot sure that Adam Warlock was going to be like the like antagonist character, right? The villain. But I'm pretty sure like in the comics he's like a hero, right? But either way, I thought he was going to be like, you know, the focal point of Guardians 3, because like they tease him at the end, he's pretty much going to be the like plot device, but it wasn't that. Adam Warlock just became like a side character more than anything. You see him like interacting with his like mother, the gold bitch. Sorry if I put that, you know, bluntly, but gold bitch. But he's just like a grunt with like, you know, superhuman strength, laser like beams. He doesn't get like his like moments until like near the very end, and he's pretty much to an extent like absent. He's there like in the beginning and like, you know, the semi like beginning middle part, then like comes back at like at the semi like end part, and he comes back as an end in the end as like an official Guardians member. So it's really crazy how they just did like Adam Warlock, right? Like in comparison to like, you know, the Square Enix game, Adam Warlock was like, you know, a plot character that carried the plot, you know? Right, he's the reason why, like, you know, Breaker exists, why the Soul Stone is there, you know, sort of thing, right? And they just like put him as like a side piece, like a side of fries sort of thing. Like, okay, I mean, I guess, but still didn't like hit right with me. I mean, of course, you know, the overall movie was like fantastic because, you know, during the course is that we see like Rocket's origins of being like a genetically modified, you know, in a way, super genius, more so than the High Evolutionary. And this is where, like, I say, like, the High Evolutionary is unhinged because, like, he creates like a perfect society. He is a benefactor for all like the creations that he has contributed throughout like space, but he cannot have someone that's like better than him, right? So he cannot have any imperfections. He cannot have someone that's like, you know, far more superior than him in terms of like, you know, intellect. So Rocket's origins is pretty fucked up, right? He was genetically modified by the High Evolutionary and was trained by the High Evolutionary to think and talk like a proper like human, even though like he's a raccoon. And he has friends in his like playpens, right? With he dates like a weasel or otter like chick. And there's like a walrus and a rabbit, but because of how Rocket like thinks and how like he solved one problem that the High Evolutionary couldn't, he decides to like, you know, fuck fuck him. I need your brain. I don't need anything else. I want to be better. I want to be better than everyone else, including you. And Rocket like sees the horrors of what the High Evolutionary is and decides to like bolt the fuck out. But the High Evolutionary catches him. He like predicts his plan and shoots his friends. And so in retaliation, Rocket like fucks up his face. And that's why you see like, you know, like his face is like stapled up, because he like, you know, Rocket scratched into all hell, right? Man, if you get like mauled by a raccoon, it's like, man, your face is not recovering after that, man. You need like, you know, very severe surgery. Let me tell you. But yeah, like it was mostly about like Rocket, and we get to see like Rocket's like origins, but this is where I say like he was not there like in the first place, because he's not present in most of like the Guardians like actions. Like it's crazy. Like he's not there at all. I mean, of course he was like in the bed, but man, I want to see like more Rocket. I want to see like more team interactions with like Rocket and the crew, and we only got, hey mom, I know, I'll close the windows. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, no, and like Rocket like, you know, talks with like everybody, but Rocket only is like talking to like, you know, with Groot, because that's like his best friend, Quill, Peter Quill, Star-Lord, Drax, Nebula, but we rarely see like, you know, Rocket like talking to like Gamora or like, you know, to Mantis. There might have been like in the specials and like whatnot, but I'm only like counting like the movies that the Guardians of the Galaxy in. No like Christmas specials, no I Am Groot like specials, just only like the movies. So I'm counting like those out, because to me, like those are the movies that like what matter. And so Guardians is like, it's a team like movie, and so we never see like all of like the characters like interact with one another. You know, like Mantis interacts with like, you know, the crew, right, with Peter, Drax, and Nebula. And Drax like interacts with Peter, Mantis, Nebula. But we never get to see like the equal like ratio of like characters like talking, right? It's like I want to see like more Rocket interacting and talking to people, rather than just like, you know, him being segmented off in like in a solo part of like a movie and him like doing shit. Albeit, you know, that's cool, because we saw that like in Guardians 2, where he like sets up traps like in a forest and incapacitates Yondu's crew of Ravagers before then, right? But we never see like Rocket at all outside of like flashbacks. And of course we have like other characters like Kraglin, who wears Yondu's like mohawk to control like his like not autopilot, remote controlled like pen or spear or thing or whatever. Then we have like Cosmo, the telekinetic dog, which I was introduced in the Guardians game. But they made Cosmo a female voice. I mean, that's not that bad, but like, yeah, it was kind of like different from like the game though. It sounded like more like pronounced like male voice. I'm still fine with like Cosmo the way he is, but all Cosmo ever did was that Kraglin called Cosmo a bad girl dog, and it's just a constant jab between the two, between Kraglin and Cosmo. Like, I am not the bad girl. You take that back. I was hoping like these characters like Adam Warlock and like Cosmo and Kraglin could do more than just like being side characters, you know? And I was hoping like, you know, Peter and Gamora would like sob, right? We saw the love romance like indication in 1. We saw the romance love indication in 2. Avengers Part 1, Avengers Part 2, although very little because they have to like acknowledge it. But still, I mean, Rocket was there like in Avengers Endgame, but he was only with like Thor and Hulk, mostly like Thor and other like Avengers, but that's still not enough interactions, right? You get to see like a little bit of interactions in like in the deleted scenes, but they just mainly like side him out, and they just like reference him in like casual like talk in like Endgame. So that's why I say it's like this Guardians film was all about like Rocket, but at the same time not about Rocket, sort of thing. And of course, you know, Rocket gets like his like payoff, right? Like at the end, right? The Guardians liberate the crew. Rocket is revived via like, you know, one of High Evolutionary subordinates that died you know, painfully, as he should be. As he should be. Rescue all of like there's also like little kids, right? This is the second movie that talks about like kids. They're like genetically modified kids by the High Evolutionary that are able to like perform at an advanced level, not to like above him, but like with him, you know, at like the same level. Rescue like kids, rescue other like animals that the High Evolutionary has captured for more genetic experimentation, and I think it's assumed that like the High Evolutionary lives, because there's like, you know, we don't see him die. We assume that like he dies at his like base explosion, but Rocket doesn't kill him because he is a Guardian of the Galaxy. He is a hero, and heroes don't do killing. Not unless you're like Punisher or some shit. But High Evolutionary is dead. Peter and Gamora go their separate ways. Peter acknowledges that, you know, he's not going to get Gamora back. Maybe like in due time, but he's going to do soul searching. And this is like the ending like kicks in, is that most of the Guardians crew go like their separate ways. Peter goes back to Earth. Gamora goes to the Ravagers. Nebula does her own thing. Drax and Mantis do their own thing. So all that's left is like Groot and Rocket. But at the end of a post-credit scene, we get to see new team members, right? Adam Warlock is in the crew, as well as like one of the captured kids from the High Evolutionary, Phyla. Very reminiscent to like, you know, Nikki from the Guardians game, where she like becomes like part of the crew. Oh yeah, Adam Warlock suffered like his mom dying like before him because of the High Evolutionary. Yeah, that's like fucked up. But yeah, like, I mean, that's like Guardians 3. It was still like a fun time, right? Nebula is a funny fucking character trying to like, you know, balance out the team with like logic and just being angrily and, you know, pissed off at like everyone trying to do their own thing. Mantis and Drax are still like, you know, the most relatable members of the crew. Teenage Groot is like a nice twist, or not Teenage Groot, it's like young adult Groot. The Teenage Groot was like in Infinity War and in Endgame, right? But it was still like a fun movie. I still had like a good time with it, right? It's not like a secret invasion, right? It's not like it's not like a Love and Thunder or an Ant-Man like 3, right? Even though like they're okay, they're good movies, but they're not that great. Guardians 3 is still like a great movie because it's still that James Gunn formula where it still like peaks. It still like peaks at like the humor, but also balancing out, you know, the clear and present danger, as well as the addition of like, you know, dark tones, right? I like that shit. I love, you know, making things like, you know, lighthearted. And I think this is what like Guardians like 3 took note of from like the Guardians like game. I wouldn't say almost having like similar like goals, right? But you know, it was just like a fun like ride. You know what? I kind of like put like Guardians like the game above like Guardians like 3, right? If I like really like think about it, because you know, of course you're like playing a game, but you know, you have like a team just like interacting with one another, and like that's like the end goal of like the Guardians like motif. It's like you're a team. I want to hear like these like crazy assholes like talk to each other equally, you know? And of course, you know, the plot stuff for Guardians the game is really like spot on. About like a priest that uses like the soul stone and, you know, warps like a grieving teenager's mind that lost her daughter, and so the Guardians try to do everything they can to like rescue the girl and kill the priest, while also like sealing away the soul stone. Well, not kill the priest, defeat the priest. But yeah, like that Guardians game was, you know, super fucking good. And I think this, like what Guardians 3 like took note of from the Guardians game is like, you know, yeah, there's some like similarities, but some notes that this movie took from the game. Like that's not like a bad thing. It's all right, but you know, there's some things that, you know, coincide, sort of thing. I mean, of course, you know, some big differences like Adam Warlock, right? Adam Warlock here in the side character in the movie, Adam Warlock in the game is like a plot character. But still, I would give like Guardians 3 like an 8.5 out of 10. I wouldn't give it like a 9. 9 would be something like probably like Guardians 2. Guardians 3 is still like good, but I sure wish that like Rocket was like, you know, with the team instead of just, you know, being a plot device and stuck in the ER. Right? I wish he could have been like doing something instead, like talk to his like crew, or like, you know, instead of just reliving his moments before his, you know, quote unquote death. Because they played death really hard for like Rocket, and that we were expected that Rocket was going to like, or something was like going to like pass away from all like the trailers and shit. But no, Rocket lived. And it was a dark moment for like Peter, because, you know, it's very traumatic for Peter. He lost his mom, he lost Gamora, and he was about to lose Rocket, his best friend. So man, Peter's been through the ringer. So it kind of makes sense that like, you know, he deserves a break from all like the fucked up shit that he's been like enduring, right? But yeah, it's like an 8.5 out of 10. Like, it's still good. It still has like the charm of Guardians 1 and Guardians 2, but there are just like some things that I have to like lower down or like consider in this like third installment, you know? So I don't know when we'll get like a third, like, not a third, sorry, a fourth Guardians movie. Cause like, in the very near end of the credits, it's like, the legendary Star-Lord will return. So, Marvel is in the work. Marvel is brainstorming a Guardians 4, but we don't know when that will be. But it's alright. But it's alright. Let them like take their time, right? Because, you know, now it like with movies more than ever, but now in the movie industry more than ever, it's super like critical and very what was it, sensitive, because of the writer's strike that's going on in like in Hollywood. That Hollywood is going to be like impacted, and a lot of writers and producers and actors are going up in strike in the saga writers like communion. Basically, they want to put like AI involved more into the film industry, and actors and writers and screen producers are like not having that. They don't want that. And so they're just like, you know, protesting against that. And they're waiting on like the actual like confirmation of like that board in the saga like group. Saga after? What's that one thing? SAG-AFTRA. Yes, that was it. The Screen Actors Guild. Yes, that was it. The SAG-AFTRA. Writers Guild Association and the Screen Actors Guild AFTRA. Where was it? So it's very sensitive for like, you know, films after like Flash, Barbie, Oppenheimer, you know, like what's gonna happen? I know Blue Beetle is gonna be like coming, but you know, the future of like films is gonna be like hanging on a thread or like hanging in a balance. So, I mean, I'm like reviewing like a movie, but I also gotta like, but also give props to like the actors that like do these roles, right? Without actors, without screenwriters, without directors, producers, we wouldn't have the movies that we would have. I should have made this in like Secret Invasion. Why didn't I do that like before? But without like those important people, and without those like important jobs in the movie industry, we wouldn't have these movies or television shows nowadays, right? And like I said, it's hanging in the balance. So, you know, respect to like actors and do like formal protests if you're in like California, Hollywood, at like, you know, support actors and support their wages, right? They deserve more than what they are, you know, they deserve more than what they like get, right? They put all of it into it, right? Voice actors also like included, right? For Japanese VAs, for like American voice actors, you know, for anime, for cartoons, right? Even though they don't have a lot of like buck with what they have, they still should be, you know, have more worth. They should be respected more in the industry than what they are, than what they like minimally get. But when is the next like Marvel like movies, right? Marvel Phase 5, right? God damn, this screen is like light. Damn, I'll try to like navigate. Marvels will be like coming next, and that's November 10th, right? That's gonna be I really don't have much interest with like Miss Marvel and Monica Rambeau. Sorry, Captain Marvel and Monica Rambeau, but I am very much interested in Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel. More than anything, because I loved Miss Marvel, even though it like had its faults. It's like how I feel with brown characters in Japanese like fighting games like Tekken, Street Fighter, and KOF 15. I just love seeing brown representation in like some of these like popular ass things, you know? And Miss Marvel definitely like sold it for me. But Miss Marvel, I'll probably like watch and do like a review on. Deadpool will be coming in like May 3rd. I'm hella interested in Deadpool like 3. I wanna see like what they got, but Deadpool 3, because of the screen SAG-AFTRA strikes, the filming will be like on hiatus until it will be post-production. Then of course Captain America, slated to be July. We don't know what's gonna happen with that movie. Again, all because of the writer strikes. Thunderbolts and Blade. And for TV shows, we're gonna have Loki on October 6th. Loki will be in October. Echo will be in November. And Agatha and Daredevil, Agatha, Ironheart, Daredevil. Well, Daredevil will be on hiatus. Okay, that's also new. But yeah, like that's gonna be like our future for Marvel stuff, right?